I have a responsibility to make sure that I don't speak ill of the deceased. I'm aware that we talk about women in the womanist agenda. However, when a life is lost, we won't slander that person regardless of what they did while they were on this earth. The same goes for a queen, although you can say she is directly linked to the new world you know. Today's topic is something that I take very seriously with how I present it. The things I've mentioned, Jack, are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the challenges that men face in this life. If I were to go into detail about us getting divorced, losing our kids, losing our jobs for being a man, and all the other issues that we face, however, I want to let you guys know that nobody is coming to save you, nor will they care about you as a man in this world. Some of us went our separate ways, others are free agents, and still others have gone into monk mode. You have to expect that if you don't have kids that care about you or money in abundance for your retirement, many of us will be going forward with this new world order. It is crucial if you have the time to make a conscious decision about what you want to do with your life. Many of us, including myself, have decided that we are leaving relationships behind because they are not worth it in the long term. The second man who passed away was living the life that many of us are living right now. You could say that he lived all three lifestyles because he never had children, ever married, and didn't live with anyone like the last man. He also lived in bushes away from other people. So how he died was similar to the other man's death, where he must have fallen ill and was on his way out of the bushes to either ask for help or go to the hospital where he collapsed and met his maker. Some of you guys need a reality check to help you understand that this life is no joke and that saying you're going your own way, free agent and monk mode, has consequences just like everything else in life. So you better get your money up so you don't end up like Lucky and Campy. Remember what I said at the beginning, that nobody cares about men, and nothing is going to change that. So you had better prepare for old age if you make it that far. And our condolences go out to all of our subscribers who passed away before they could hear this message. In my case, I've said numerous times in these videos that they're probably going to find me being consumed by MGTOW. It is what it is. I'm preparing for it mentally now. So when it happens, I'll know that it was a conscious decision I made. If I don't die before that, it's a heady topic, but you guys need some perspective on life so you can make the best decision for your life moving forward. What happened to Jack and those two men is something that could happen to any of us. My advice would be to get your money up and hire someone to take care of you that won't poison or delete you to get some money all right. If you're not willing to die a horrible death, figure out another strategy or lifestyle that can work for you. Now is not the time to carry any dead weight either, which is why I would still advise you not to get into a relationship. Now is the time to get as much money as is humanly possible and get ready for this economic meltdown. EV Magazine published an article with the title, "A Woman Who Pretended to Be a Man Dies by Assisted Self-Deletion Years After Realizing How Difficult It Was to Win." So, for this article, I'll say a few things here and there. She was a member of the Skittles community and not a transformer. But she became interested in gender and identity in 2003 because she was a curious person. She hired a makeup artist to help her paint stubble on her face to match her short dark hair. She worked out to build the muscles on her back. She wore rectangular framed glasses, and she strapped her breasts against her stomach in order to experience life as the opposite gender so that she could write about it. Norah Vincent was sure that nothing could stop her from changing her gender. However, she discovered that living life as the other sex did not grant her male privileges. For 18 months, Norah pretended to be a man under the new name Ned. She did manly things and hacked a bowling league, a Roman Catholic monastery, and an awareness group for men. She went to strip clubs and dated women. She even worked in a male-dominated industry. But despite these adventures, Ned did not feel alive, free, or fluid. In fact, it was tiresome. Vincent taught Ned what it was like to be all right. For some reason, women have the misconception that we have life figured out and are privileged. I am aware that men and women face different obstacles in life, but hear me out on this one. If there is evidence that contradicts this assessment, then I will be the one to say that men have it much harder in this life than women, period. It's not even close to the amount of disadvantage that we have compared to women. I've never heard of a man changing over to being a woman and deleting himself because of how difficult it is to be a woman. This is the truth that we have to acknowledge, and it has to be said that the majority of women in this Western world are where they are because of themselves. They chose the struggle didn't choose them. Aside from their upbringing, which is beyond their control, and the abuse that was done to some of them, many women chose to give their best years to men who had no intention of taking care of them. And many of these women ignored good men who would have made life easier for them, so I do. Knowing that I can't feel sorry for women and men who put themselves through the struggle, there are a lot of people who were there because of the poor decisions they made that compounded over time and affected their lives. Some of these women were married to decent men, but they thought they could level up and do better, so they divorced their husbands and destroyed the family's wealth, only to fall right into struggle. Years later, women have proven to be their own worst enemies, and that is the bottom line. They would rather take advice from someone who is struggling than tell them what they want to hear in order to lead their man to greener pastures. As a result, I really don't care what happens to most women who ruin their lives. Greg Adams has a saying that goes, "You chose the struggle didn't choose you." Let's continue by saying that I expect people to go into this thinking that because it was written by a woman, let's be honest, she's going to be male bashing all the way down the line. Norah mentioned this during a phone interview, but my experience was one that made me feel very vulnerable. It made me feel a lot of pain and difficulty. While all of us in the post-womanist movement are convinced that women have always had it worse and men have always had it better, she continued, it took me stepping into their shoes to realize that that's not true at all. Norah's immersive journalism was anything but empowering. She felt alone and defeated by his men. Norah said they have different problems than women, but they don't have them better. They require our sympathy, they require our affection, and they rely on one another more than anything else. They must be together. She would not have understood how difficult it is for men if she had not walked in our shoes. Norah's mental health began to deteriorate while she was working on Self-Made Man, and she eventually had to check herself into a mental health facility due to a crippling depression. Her stay in a mental hospital inspired her next book, Voluntary Madness: My Year Lost and Found in the Loony Bin, which was published in 2008. Norah's method of expressing herself as an artist through various identities continued to harm her mentally. It's nothing new for me to get lost, sometimes dangerously so in my work, Norah explained. I began my writing life as an immersion journalist. I put myself inside other people's lives, and I purported to write from their perspective. But inescapably, I did so by meandering, she said. It was another immersive piece, and instead of disguising herself as a man, she disguised herself as a mental patient. Something that Ronald Williams mentioned to Ned in an interview that he had given years before he committed self-deletion in August 2014 should be brought to your memory because of its significance. He was speaking about addiction, but the significant part of what he said, which was wisely cautionary and profound, applies equally to depression and the intent to self-select. It is something that never disappears. It watches for the times when we are the most vulnerable and attacks us. Even though Norah was very self-aware and thought a lot about herself, it seems like she was never able to get over the mental problems she had in the summer of 2022 because she was so focused on her work. At age 53, Norah gave in to her pain and died in Switzerland through a process called medically assisted suicide. That's tough, and I'm sorry that she had to die in order to understand how challenging it is to be a man. But unfortunately, that's the way things work out. Shout out to all the men who go through hell on earth every day while still forging ahead and overcoming the obstacles that life throws at them. If you ever feel like you want to self-delete or you can't handle the depression you're experiencing, go out and seek professional help. As I mentioned to Ned earlier in the video, you have to look out for yourself because nobody will do it for you. Let's wrap this up. Don't give up because men don't have the luxury of giving up. A few parting thoughts. As Norah was saying, men are in pain, but postmodern womanism refuses to acknowledge their suffering. In 2020, it was found that 70% of people living on the streets were men. Men are 4 times more likely to end their own lives than women. Men account for 80% of all murder victims worldwide. Men make up slightly more than half of the workforce, but they account for 90% of all workplace fatalities. As Norah was saying, male privilege in the modern era is a myth. To support us, like this video, please subscribe, and make sure to send this video to the person who needs to hear it the most.